Howdy, of you delicious people. I'm here today to review Hitman 2007. I say Hitman 2007 because there have been a number of Hitman slash assassin slash whatever kind of movies kind of after this film kind of came out, where all of a sudden it's like, hey, like, now everybody has to get into the Hitman game. Like, there's so many, there's like the Hitman's bodyguard and all kinds of stuff out there now. I think probably quite possibly based single-handedly off this movie to just be like, wow, like, you know what, like, we've gone into doing like 007 kind of spy movies. Now let's just go into Hitman movies because it's a lot easier, and it's just a lot, like, it's easier to put up random stories into one film. So going into this movie, of course, this movie is based off another video game franchise that a lot of people might know. Really, I've played a number of Hitman games as Agent 47, and really I could say that most of the video games are really fun. If you've played them, then you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. A lot of the games are of a much more like stealthy approach to killing someone and stuff like that, where I think this movie does go into like, well, like, we clearly cannot do like a bunch of just stealth kills and whatever. Like, we can't set it up exactly like the video game, but we can just put up an interesting story. And so, like, this movie doesn't exactly like seem like a normal Hitman like scenario of things, but at least it tries to do something interesting. It gives you an interesting story. Like, I remember even watching like Hitman Agent 47, which is technically a sequel of this film, but it can also be its own thing, where even that kind of really like doesn't exactly, like, that one goes into even bigger scale of action and stuff like that compared to this original one. uh, Going into this, though, I kind of like how this is kind of set up. I kind of like how really Agent 47, like, he's a man of mystery through most of this film. You don't understand where everything is heading to, and I think that's what makes this to be the most interesting film, is you're just kind of saying like, okay, what is he preparing for? What is he setting up for? And then all of a sudden, then you see where it's to be set up for, and you're like, oh my god, this guy is brilliant. This guy has like master plans of all kinds of things. And then bravo to that like there's always some plan to be had eventually. And I like that kind of, I like kind of like setting up the dominoes and then watch as they knock down, and that's kind of what this movie is. It's like setting up for, hey, this guy is going to need these things in certain places, and then eventually he's going to get those things and use all of them. Like, it kind of feels like when 007 would get all of those, like, those new pieces for a movie to just be like, hey, here's this, like, here's this ski thing that is going to transform into like rocket skis, and then you're just like, okay, what is Bond gonna use that for in this film? And then all of a sudden, coincidentally, there's a one spot where he needed the skis that turn into rocket powered skis, and like, ooh, wow! Like, I'm just using some random example. I'm not coming up with actual things that happen in some Bond movie, but like, I'm just kind of teeing it up to just kind of say what this is. So I thought that this movie was really fun. I like this movie. It's very enjoyable. Go out of your way that you've seen this movie if you never have, because some people are just like, I didn't really care much for the Hitman games and stuff like that. It's a lot of stealth missions. Well, this movie isn't a stealth movie. Like, this movie goes on to have reasonably the hitman killing a political figure, which is kind of a very dicey thing to pull off. A lot of hitmans go out of their way to not try to kill political figures. If you watch the Nicolas Cage movie Bangkok Dangerously, they go into mentioning that that really you shouldn't kill political figures, because that means like people are going to be like hunting you down forever to track you down because you killed a political figure. Like, that's the most dangerous person to kill. So But I guess for the Hitman, it's just like, well, dude, like this is just another like day in the office. Plus, also, Hitman tries to come up with a lot of ways to have to not do things in utter public. He tries to do more like secretive or private like kills, and eventually someone will find his dead body later. Uh, really, for the games, that makes much more sense. But eventually, we have in this movie where the request of Diana is to do a much more public killing of a certain character. So, with that said, yeah, this movie does have quite a bit of a fun ride. Really, we have characters like Nika, I believe her name is, who is to kind of be the counterpart of Hitman, where Hitman is kind of this dark and brooding character that doesn't say much, and so Nika has to consistently deliver a lot of lines and consistently be the kind of person that is the opposite of Hitman, consistently trying to like throw her body basically in Hitman's face. At some point, even seducing him at some point in this movie. So that might be interesting to some people to just kind of see certain parts of Nika just walking around in all of her glory at some point. But with that said, yeah, very fun movie. I really did enjoy it. Really, there is this fun part where there are kids in a hotel that are actually playing the Hitman game while in the Hitman movie, which I thought was kind of like a fun kind of God, what is it called? Like a fun meta. There we go, a meta kind of thing where they're playing the Hitman game as they're watching Hitman like walk through this part of a room, which I thought was fun. I love Timothy Olyphant. I really like the fact that he did this movie. It was kind of sad that he wasn't in the sequel, but like I guess it is what it is. More than likely, after this movie, like Timothy's career, like kind of really picked up, if it didn't already pick up, with a number of like huge films that he was doing, like Gone in 60 Seconds, or maybe quite possibly Perfect Getaway, and that started to get Timothy a lot of work repetitiously, and plus, like just his comedic approaches when going into like Santa Clarita's Diet kind of really did like going on to a show. I think really did help Timothy nail a lot of other things along the ways. So, anyways, yeah, like just kind of I love Timothy. He's fun. But anyways, let's go into that coveted. Oh, and also Live Free and Die Hard probably didn't hurt Timothy's career either, being the villain of that. So let's get into that double five timed territory, and let's go into the spoiler time. Spoiler time. It's about the time we get to spoil this movie. So this movie is to start out in London, England, but it is to jump around into a lot of places. Like it jumps from like London, England to Russia to like the Russian border, which is like Turkey. It bounces around quite a bit into certain locations, but eventually there's a reason for a bunch of stuff. So with that said, let's get into it. So, at the very beginning of this film, we are at London, England, and we are to mostly focus on a detective coming home who is to be called Mike Witter, or Mike Whiteer. I want to say Witter. I could be wrong, but I'm just going to call him Mike throughout this whole movie. Hopefully anybody likes that. So, Mike is coming home to go and just like, okay, I'm going to put my gun on the kitchen counter. I'm going to go and take a huge dump. Just let it all loose. Like, I'm going to make whoever's in my home just wait it out for me. We're gonna have Mike go in the shower. He's because he had a vicious poop, and then like no. All this is just funny. It's hilarious, but I just wanted to make a quick joke there. So Mike goes on to eventually go into his office. All of a sudden, Mark is to almost like smack into a person being held underneath his rug, and so Mike is like, "Oh my god! Like somebody's in my home. I need to find my gun." And so Agent 47 is like, I'm sorry, your gun is in the is in the kitchen where you've left it." And so Mike is like, "Ah, crap." Well, Agent 47 has a silencer gun like in front of him anyway. So what is he gonna do? So Agent 47 is basically telling Mike that his family is perfectly okay. They're all asleep, and so let's just leave it that way. That eventually, if Agent 47 is going to have to shoot Mike for any reason, that he won't die alone. And so, like, think of that when you're going to do anything that you're going to do here, Mike. So, Mike is just sit down, just realizing that, okay, I guess I have to just go into anything that this guy is going to say. And so, immediately, Agent 47 is to ask Mike, well, you consider yourself a good man, right, Mike? And Mike is like, I think. And so Hitman is to, or let's go with 47. That'll be probably easier. So 47 is to ask Mike, well, how does a good man know when to kill someone? And so all of a sudden that transitions us to Shantytown, Nigeria. Because there is to be a guy, justifiably, I don't know the background of all these characters, but like I just know all of a sudden we have a bunch of Nigerian men all grabbing this other Nigerian guy and dragging him into almost something that looks like a butcher shop for this guy to get sliced and diced because this guy is to immediately lose an arm for what he had done. So, all of a sudden, one of the men are to notice that the man they had dragged in and chopped off an arm, chopped off a pretty decent sized arm, all of a sudden has some sewing done to his neck, and they are trying to figure out what the heck is that? Like, what the heck did he just swallow? Or what, why is his voice different? Why does his voice sound funny? What the heck is going on with this guy? So, all of a sudden, we have this guy who is to sound odd, and all of a sudden is to be sounding a lot more odd because he's going to sound like an explosion. Because we found out later that this guy had swallowed a pound of C4 in his throat because the hitman decided that he wanted to sew up this guy's throat to have him consume this pound of C4 to kill all of these men. So that transitions us to the federal police headquarters where Interpol is talking to Interpol, which means Mike and Jenkins, is talking to this Nigerian general and talking about how the location that they're in, which I think is Ovi, is just one of the locations that Hitman or the Hitman had hit. Because there's several other locations all across the world where this guy has done a job somewhere, and they're not quite sure if this is just this guy or a number of people. Because in the very beginning of this, we are to see like an origin story, kind of bits and pieces of all these orphans who were to be collected and had been put barcodes onto the back of their heads and were like grown to be trained. So this is kind of like a Black Widow Red Room kind of situation where we just have a bunch of kids who all at a very early age had gotten like brainwashed to be able to fight for these people, and they weren't given names, they were given numbers. So pushing on, so this pushes us on to St. Petersburg, Russia. And so Hitman is to, or 47 is to be in a bar and he is to be going on and drinking some whiskey, and he is to see a girl named June there. That is to tell him it's like, well, that's a horrible thing that you're doing. And 47's like, what? And she's like, putting putting ice in that whiskey, it kind of weakens it. It's like, well, of course, because like you're not going to see like 47 getting smashed or whatever. Like, no, like he wants to be able to consume alcohol, but he knows good and well that also that eventually he doesn't need to get heavily drunk because maybe he's going to need to escape at some point. So maybe there's some reason why he's at this bar, but it's not actually to drink. So all of a sudden we start seeing 47 start to go through this hotel. He puts a gun in an ice machine. He goes to his balcony and he starts like prepping this rope to be as tight as possible. And 47 also puts like a bomb in front of his door, just kind of making sure that eventually, if someone was to come and get him, that he could figure out that, oh, I'm gonna get freaking out of here. So, uh, so 47 is going to his laptop to have the next hit being told by him that that a woman named Diana is telling 47 that he is to go after Belikov, and he is to make it a public killing. And and most of the time 47 doesn't do things like that. So he's like, no, like I thought like there would be something a little bit more private to get to him. And yeah, like I don't want to kill him that way. And they're like, well, I understand this is like kind of going out of your normal protocol of things, but the client wants a public death, so you need to perform that somehow or another. And so 47 is like, okay, fine. And so if anything, like also 47 was kind of looking at all the information of Belikov and kind of seeing that maybe at some point he could eventually go after Belikov's brother if there's like something that ends up going wrong with this hit. So if anything, that easily pushes us on to having Belikov doing this interview at some public arena, and all of a sudden we are to start seeing people get killed off. The first thing that we are to see is that Hitman is to shoot one of Belikov's bodyguards and then shoots Belikov supposedly in the head. And of course, like 47 is doing this from a building like adjacent to where this building is, and he's doing it from a sniper spot from a high rung of things. 47 like explodes his entire briefcase and then gets the heck out of there. So so if anything, 47 is to eventually leave and try to think that all is done, and all of a sudden he is to get a text mentioning to call the office. So 47 goes on his laptop and they are to tell him that there is some witness, a girl named Nika. So reasonably 47 is to ask how reliable their sources are, because like 47 was up very high, and how could any of one have witnessed what he had done? That seems very odd. So 47 goes and finds Nika and is to like go and almost like shoot her in like broad daylight. Like 47 is to get right into Nika's face, and Nika is to not recognize 47 whatsoever. And 47 is very confused by that. He's just like, okay, this person doesn't recognize me. what kind of a witness is this? But that leads to a sniper from an adjacent spot going and shooting down 47. And so 47 just tries to like run off and is to eventually like, what the fuck? Like, so there's another hitman that just wanted to kill me? Like, what kind of garbage is this? So, uh, if anything, we immediately have 47 who is to call Diana back and just be okay, like who was the client of this? Because you know what, like this seems very fishy. Like if anything, like this witness was not a witness, and like there was somebody that was also like shooting at me that was of course another hitman. Like this seems like there's something about this that feels odd. And Diana is to tell 47 that they aren't going to pay him because his task is not complete. And so if anything now, like 47 is just like, who set me up? Because there's all of a sudden like a news report where Belikov is talking with a wound supposedly over his head or a bandage over his head. And it's like, no, like that spray meant death. Like I hit him straight in the head and this guy died. So what the heck is this? Is this a joke? Is somebody coming for me? What is this? Like, have I been like too like has somebody found me out? So that's why I'm gonna die soon? What is up with this? So, also we have it to where Mike is to all of a sudden get a call that a captain is to have found 47. And so he's like, what? Like they had a picture of him? Like they found him? This makes no sense. So Mike goes down to where this hotel is where supposedly they had found 47. And all of a sudden, Interpol now has to kind of start working hand in hand with the FSB. And so Interpol, who is Mike, is now asking, what the heck does FSB has anything to do with this? Like, I think FSB is just trying to, like, quickly close this case and try to, like, snuff it out and whatever, because I think Yuri is working with Belikov. And so they're trying to, like, work to get this whole thing, like, sealed the deal. Because eventually, in some part of this movie, we have Belikov talking to Yuri because Mike had bugged Yuri and got some like information that it seems like Yuri's working with Belikov. So, if anything, Agent 47 is to eventually get a call from Diana mentioning that Belikov was actually the client, and that if anything, like she probably should not have called 47 because she would be retired shortly thereafter this. So we have the captain, and we have I guess I should know what the captain's name is. It's very long, and I just don't want to go out of my way to like. I know this guy is a captain, and I know like he has a severely long name, but I just don't want to get into it because it would take too long of a time. I'm gonna skip it. So, anyways, so they go into like trying to breach 47's apartment because they think that he's going to try to escape. And of course he's going to escape. So immediately someone is going to break into his room, and so of course we have Hitman who just takes this rope and frickin' just swings like into another room, and it is the room where the kids are playing Hitman, and so he's like, huh, and then he just like walks off. So 47 is to eventually go and find his gun in the little freezer casing. or in the little icebox thing. And so we just eventually have Mike, who is to finally see 47, and it's like they're in a hallway, and all of a sudden there's a maid who's coming out from cleaning a room, and so Mike is telling this woman to duck, and 47 is to tell her like she's a finsta or whatever, or like don't move or something. He's saying in her language, don't move. So the maid is just like, what am I supposed to do? And so that leads to have 47 run through this one thing of glass, or run through a window to eventually fall into a pool, which is to help him escape all this. So all that Mike and Jenkins can do is just go up to 47's apartment, and Jenkins is to try to stop one of the guys from opening the laptop, because I'm sure the laptop has some trap to it. And of course, when they are to open this up, like the laptop basically just like kills itself or erases things. And so Jenkins is like, God, you moron. So that just leads to everybody pushing out to have Mike and Yuri like talk about things. And so Mike and Yuri's like trying to like cement that it's like, hey, this is basically my case now. And like once both of you like get out of here, I'm taking over. Cause I believe in this case, like Mike is to have some broken ribs, and I think Jenkins to have like a an arm issue after all this. I think so. Yuri's to just kind of cement that it's like, hey, like after this whole thing is over, like goodbye. So we transition to eventually having a dozen roses delivered to Nika's apartment, and so Nika is to eventually open the door to retrieve these flowers, because I guess they were sent by Belikov. But they weren't. They were sent by Agent 47. And he is the one delivering the flowers. So 47 is to go into Nika's apartment and kind of like get information out of her. Ask how exactly that Belikov could still be alive after he put a bullet through his head. And Nika's like, I don't know. It's like, well, then what good are you, like, what good use are you to me? And so then Nika eventually mentions that that Belikov has doubles, and so also, like, Hitman is to also ask, it's like, well, why do you have a face on your or why do you have a tattoo on your face? And Nika's to mention because it's the only place that that Belikov wouldn't hit her. Because evidently, like, Nika eventually has this horror story of eventually, like, Belikov going and, like, and whipping her and all kinds of things. But, like, she can't get away from Belikov because, like, he pays her so good. And, like, it's just the fact of it being that, like, Nika needs to, like, keep having this client around because, like, it's the only way for her to be able to make it. So, moving on. So, if anything, Mike is to eventually ask this captain, how is it quite possible that Agent 47 could get further into Russia? And the captain is to mention that there are robots here and here and here, and so eventually the Mike is just like, well, like, that's great and all, but is there any other way that Agent 47 could get anywhere further into Russia? Because, like, I think he's gonna consistently keep coming after Belikov until he's dead. So we transition to some train station, I believe. So Hitman is to be wearing some, I guess, train station pilot getup, to where we kind of see him like in this uniform of sorts that I guess he took it from someone. So he is to arrive in this train station, and so both Mike and Jenkins are in this train station as well because they figure that's the only way that 47 can get anywhere. So this could be a subway, this could be a train station. I don't know. I always get those things confused because stuff happens. I think it's a train station because like it looks like a train to me. It doesn't look like a subway. Like subway and trains could look different, I guess. So anyways, so uh eventually this leads to Hitman's or 47 seeing another Hitman in this train station, and so Agent 47 is trying to goat this other older looking hitman out. So 47 is to take off his hat, and that is to push this other hitman to try and follow him, which he's like, great, that's what I wanted you to do. So that pushes both Mike and Jenkins to see like a guy that looks like 47, and so they start following him. So that eventually leads to Hitman or 47 going off and eventually grabbing onto this other hitman and is like shooting at him and asking him, it's like, who put the hit on me? Like, who put the hit? Like, who's trying to kill me right now? And this guy doesn't really give any answers, so basically he continues to just get shot. So eventually that just leads to eventually, I've said eventually too much, I apologize. 47 is to go into a train and find that there are a number of other hitmen there who are going to try to kill 47. And so they all line up into this train in this cool action sequence. And so 47 is like, well, like, you know what? How about we just put the guns away, and how about we just like fight with some honor? You know what? Like, die with some dignity. So everyone just starts getting their blades out, and then so we have this like blade out fight, which is kind of cool. And so that leads eventually to have 47 eventually going like underneath this like train rail and going and choking a guy out, using the train as like a leverage to choke this one guy out, but he kills all the other hitmen, which I thought was kind of cool. So like that was probably the coolest sequence of this whole movie, to have a bunch of hitmen coming at 47 and he has to like kill them all off. Like, I wish that would have kind of happened in a lot of other video games, but it just doesn't happen, bizarrely. So, eventually, 47 is to make it back to the other hitman, and Nika is bizarrely there. All of a sudden, Mike is to appear, and 47 is to take him down, and 47 is to almost kill Mike, but Nika is to tell 47 to stop killing people. So 47 agrees and tells Mike she just saved your life. Like, be grateful for her, because I would have shot you and I would have killed you and this would all have been over. You would have never seen my face, or no one else would have been able to have seen my face. But I'm letting you live. So, I think this is when we actually get to the broken ribs thing. Like, I was thinking the broken ribs thing was at the hotel, but maybe that's this spot. So, we transition to have Hitman and Nika in this car, and so of course, 47 is to tell Nika, like, if you ever do that again, like, I won't hesitate to shoot you. And so I think this is a spot where Nika is to tell 47, like, well, if you're going to shoot me, like, I can't give you a good reason why you wouldn't. like if anything, like I think we go into Nika's backstory where like she's lived a horrible life and sad for her, which is what it is because it isn't is like that's a horrible thing to say. Like this person has a horrible life, and like I think you get a lot of people in a lot of those kind of countries that have like there is no rules for certain people and people could get away with murder and that's the horrible thing about other places that reasonably like a lot of people get lost in the shuffle in a lot of other countries. Even in America you can get lost in the shuffle fairly easily too, but still uh but anything, let's like push on. But anyways, Yuri gets bugged, and so both Mike and Jenkins are to listen into a conversation that Yuri's to have with Belikov, and they're like, Yuri's trying to cover all this up. That's why he's all involved in all this. So, transitioning to Moscow, because now 47 is to have Nika go into some restaurante with a guy named Jameson. So 47 is to like call up Jameson, and so Jameson is like, "Hey, I'm hurt. Like you're not actually in the spot with me. I thought you could have trust me a little bit more than that." And Hitman is just like, "Well, hey, like it seems like there's a lot of people that want me dead lately, so I don't know who to trust exactly." So it seems that it seems that 47 has something against Jameson to force him to want to work with 47. And so Jameson is just like, okay, well, like, what's the next thing? Like, what do you want? So, 47 is to give Jameson pictures of Udre Belikov, or Udre Belikov. I hope that's like Belikov's brother, the main Belikov, the Mikolai Belikov. Udre is his brother. So when I say Udre, like people will get the kind of the difference of people. Anyways, so Jameson is just be like, okay, well, like I'll give you whatever you want, and so Jameson is to mention some things here and there, and we have 47 who is to walk off. So that leaves with both 47 and Nika going and having a time out in this country, just kind of going and like looking around. And eventually, that is to have 47 go into a certain diner and and check to see certain kind of reservations. But that's next to transition us into Interpol headquarters. So maybe I got that wrong. No, okay. Uh, it transitions us to Interpol headquarters for some reason or another. I think Mike is with Jenkins talking to his superior, I think, in that scene. I think. Like, kind of seeing that eventually that 47 had bizarrely had this key that doesn't make sense to him. I think that's the scene of which I was trying to, like, talk about here. So that pushes us on to Hitman, Nika, and going on to dinner because they were supposed to have a 8 o'clock reservation. So Hitman and Nika are having dinner, and so we supposedly have Hitman, who I guess has a picture memory of sorts, and so Nika is starting to ask Hitman about the number of things that are around them, and asking Hitman about a woman that is behind 47, he's like, oh, that's not a woman. Like, Nika's like, oh yeah, all right, well, I guess you are observant. So, and then also Nika's asking, of course, Hitman, like, what color panties is she wearing? And of course he's saying, you're not wearing any. So, if anything, Hitman had taken a glass that was from another table, and so Hitman gives this guy back the glass, this waiter, and so all of a sudden we have this guy that's at this other table that is to now be like kind of just like he's like suffocating or he's something, he's getting really ill, maybe he had food poisoning. So this guy goes in the toilet and starts violently hurling. It's like, I had to do the hurl sound. I had to purposely. So that leads Hitman to follow into the bathroom as well, telling Nika, it's like, hey, like, let's wrap this up. Let's wrap dinner up. So, so Nika changes her mind about what she said about 47. So Hitman is going to the bathroom. While he's doing that, he's being like basically patted down, and 47 is like, really? Like, come on, I gotta take a So 47 goes into the bathroom to lift the lid of the bathroom to go and take some needles and takes a gun that was in there. So Hitman goes and he injects the guard that was to be outside, and then he kills the guy in the bathroom. And then 47 is to basically take this guy's identity, who is a guy named Price. So that transitions to have 47 being able to go to Udre's place and disguise himself as this Price guy. So 47 is to go into Udre's place, and he is to supposedly buy guns from Udre. And so immediately while Udre is to like start like offering this guy a number of guns or drugs, because really Udre is doing a number of lines with his competitors. He's going over lines with his competitors, like lines. So Udre is like finding out that immediately, evidently, Agent 47 is not Price. So Udre is like, hey, like, I'm gonna like point these guns at you, like, see what happens. Like when I'm pointing guns at you to just scare you. And so Agent 47 is like, well, yeah, like these guns do look pretty cool, but actually they look Chinese. It looks like they're Chinese knockoffs. Like, this really sucks. And then all of a sudden, like, we just have Hitman who's just putting like just bullets into these guns and just firing them off and killing everyone. And so that leads to have 47 murdering all these people, and then eventually the only one left is Udre. And so Udre is like, well, hey, like, what do you want? Like, what do you want me to do? And 47 is just to ask Udre, it's like, well, I want you to help me with your brother. And Udre is like, okay, F that guy. It's like, what do you need? What do you need to help, like, take down my brother? And 47 is like, all I need is this. And he shoots Udre, having him fall into some fountain. And then 47 is like, yeah! Fist pumping and all kinds of jazz. He's like, yeah, I did it. Yeah, everybody. That's not 47 at all, but I wish it was. So, so now we are at the Russian border in Turkey, where really just 47 is just severely irritated with Nika, because she's consistently in the trunk, consistently, and like she's whining and crying and always about being in the trunk. One time there was a dead body in there and she's whining about that. And then the second time around when Nika's in the trunk, she was like, man, I couldn't breathe in there. I'm like, what a whiny baby. Like, come on. Like, he could have just, like, he couldn't have put an air hole in the trunk, so stop whining. I'm making jokes. It's funny, but it's not. But it is, but it isn't. But anyways, Nika's just whining and crying about being consistently tossed in the trunk. Like a trunk, like, angrier person. Or angriest? That's not even a word. Angriest, that's not even a word. Anyways, so moving on. So, Nika is to eventually go into the driver's passenger seat, and also 47 is to also have given Nika a meal. It's like, dude, like, I got you out of the trunk, I have food for you, and you're just gonna treat me like crap. What kind of garbage is this? What kind of garbage? I want to know exactly what kind of this garbage. So, if anything, they are driving along, and so Nika is just kind of thumbing through this magazine, and is just like, who reads any of this garbage, this magazine? Like, why do you get this magazine? If anything, I found out that evidently, like, penguins, like, 10 seconds after they're to meet their mate, they're to know if they are going to like them or not, bizarrely. So, Nika's like, why do you like this magazine? I want to know. And 47 is to mention because of the advertisements. All the stuff that I can buy is in those magazines. Like, there's one really, like, cool looking briefcase that I like to have. And so Nika's like, well, why do you need a briefcase like that? It's like, because, like, this briefcase can easily fit, like, a sniper rifle, but it also easily also has an accessory of gags to gag a little girl like you when I need it. And so 47 is like, do you want me to get the briefcase out? And Nika's like, well, do we have time for foreplay? It's like, no time. No time whatsoever. So, pushing on, so Belikov is to be going into a morgue with a bunch of dead people, and so he's just, like, really upset because he's like, oh my god, like, my brother's dead, but so is a bunch of other people, and the only person that isn't dead is Agent 47, the one guy that should have been dead is not here. So, that pushes us on to have Agent 47 grabbing Yuri, putting him in a little tub, and is to basically tell him, hey, like, yeah, you're going to need to, at this exact time, go and call your men and tell them to shoot Belikov, or you're just going to die. Hopefully that doesn't bother you. But also, hey, just letting you also know, like, I took the rubber ducky from your family's home. So just keep that in perspective if you don't do what I tell you to do, that not only you're going to die, but also probably your family is going to as well, because I've already been into their home. Believe me. So, Yuri is just to be like, while he's in barbed wire, like, stuck into the tub, and he's like, it hurts. So now we push on to the cathedral, where immediately we have Interpol, we have Mike and Jenkins talking to the people in the cathedral, and they're like, dude, no one's gonna get in here. Like, no one's gonna be able to easily get to Belikov. This seems insane. And I'm gonna have to insanely pause right now because I'm gonna need to reset. Alright, so master plan. So Mike is to recognize the key that Agent 47 was to have, and was to mention that 47 isn't going to easily try and kill Belikov. He's going to eventually have Belikov come to him. So, Belikov is doing his speech at his brother's funeral. mentioning that that since Udre had died, that Belikov is going to try to do the best for this country and all this other stuff. And I'm just like, okay, how does that have anything to do with actually Udre's death? Like, he's just putting out some political statement, just trying to say that, like, he's going to do better for this country and blah, 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 blah. I'm like, yeah, that doesn't quite work all that well, because I'm thinking, like, shouldn't he have, like, talked about his brother whatsoever? It just feels like this is, like, some political speech that has really justifyingly nothing to do much with his brother. Just saying that, like, since his brother died, it's pushing him to want to be a better political figure. But yeah, whatever. So, anyways, Yuri is to be on in the tub, just relaxing, and he's starting to see the tickety tick of time before his thing is to try and kill him. And so Yuri is now like getting on the walkie, just like, come on, come in, or whatever. So all of a sudden we have this sniper that is to be like bald, of course, and is to go on to like try and to protect Belikov while he's making his speech. And Yuri is to tell this sniper that he needs to go and shoot Belikov. And this sniper is like, are you sure? And Yuri's like, do it. So this sniper is to try to shoot Belikov in this bulletproof glass. So they repetitiously try to shoot this glass. And eventually he tries to get at Belikov, but then eventually Belikov just runs off to go into this secret room where, of course, the hitman is inside. So what ends up happening is that hitman goes and takes out this sniper and kills him, and then like crushes his head with his foot. He just like crunches it, and he's like, yeah, I did that. Like, I think there are bloopers or deleted scenes where bizarrely like 47 is repetitiously crushing this foot, or let's rear back a little bit. There's deleted scenes where Hitman is to try and repetitiously crush this guy's head with his foot. There we go. And like he bizarrely does that like multiple times. He's like pushing down on it like multiple times, and he's like really like putting his weight on it and all kinds of things, like consistently trying to crush this person's head. It looks bizarre. It looks like he's trying to do some ballroom, like some kind of like hokey pokey dance or something. Like he's just like consistently trying to crush the head and like looking like menacing trying to do it. It just looks weird. Like it looks like they wanted to try to have like it be like a multiple take thing where they're trying to like have him like squeeze the thing or kick the thing multiple times, but I think they just did it from a different angle and it just looked better. I don't know why they had to do that bizarre hokey pokey thing where like he's just bizarrely like crushing the head multiple times with his foot. It just seemed weird. But anyways, so Timothy is to push on to of course, go and shoot out Belikov and a number of his men. And then shortly after that, we have the helicopters who are going in, and if Belikov wasn't dead already, they are basically going to be, because this helicopter comes in and just shoots throughout this entire room, killing everyone in it, trying to get to Agent 47. And so after this helicopter comes in and 47 still is not dead yet, what ends up happening is that Hitman or 47 is to basically just take the throne and just kind of wait for the police to come in to blow the door and to retrieve 47. And so Interpol has jurisdiction here, and so they take 47 and they arrest him. And so while they're driving off, they eventually find Jameson with all of his people that are going to try and stop Interpol from taking 47 in. And so while Jameson is to go and talk with these men, all of a sudden 47 is to escape from out of these people's car. And so Mike knew, it's like, Jameson, you tried to prevent us from like arresting this man. And Jameson is like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, Mike thinks that there was something fishy going on with Jameson, like trying to help out Agent 47, and he doesn't know exactly what happened, but like he'll probably try and figure something out. So that just leaves to eventually having us back in London, England, where they kind of go back to the same old or the stuff that was leading up to how this movie was technically opened. And so 47 is to ask Mike again, like, because flashback now to what he said before. So 47 is to ask Mike, like, well, do you think that you're a good man? And Mike's like, I think. And so what is to have a good man decide when to like kill someone? And so Mike is to say, well, if someone is to jeopardize his like himself and his family, then Mike will eventually go out of his way to kill this man. But any other time, it's just a crapshoot. Like, basically, like, Mike doesn't exactly know when he should quite possibly go too far, but if anything, like, he tries to do his best to just, like, take a person in instead of taking their life. So, because 47 had said in the very beginning of this that whatever Mike is to say at the like during this dialogue will affect how this night ends. And so 47 is to eventually lay out this whole thing for Mike, mentioning that the hitman that Mike was looking for is underneath this rug, and that there is evidence and all kinds of things that will lead to Mike killing this guy off. And he could also wait until his kids and his wife were gone to then call this in. And so 47 is basically telling Mike that, like, this is, like, all going to be resolved now. And then 47 can get the heck out of here. And so Mike is just letting this happen. And so 47 is going away. So this is to head to eventually Nika going and eventually finding that there is, I guess, money in her account to let her go and have this wine vineyard, I guess, that she's always ever wanted. Because I think she ends up talking about that in some part of this movie. So Nika is to all of a sudden be walking off with this letter of her being able to get what she's always ever wanted. And so all of a sudden we have Hitman 47 who is watching over her because he has a sniper rifle in hand, because there had been some other hitman that had tried to kill Nika, and 47 had gotten to him, killed him off, and basically had mentioned that, like, these hitmen should not be going after her or going after him anymore. But this guy's already dead, so I guess, like, 47 is eventually going to have to, like, watch over his back and watch over Nika's back for probably the rest of their lives. But anyways, like, that's just how this movie ends, and pretty decent ending, pretty decent film, but I'm going to get the heck out of here because I think this movie was about 90 some odd minutes, so I'm going to get out of here. Goodbye, everybody. Bye, everybody.